Whoa! Welcome in to another episode of Hockey Royalty Live. This is a bonus episode with our friend Mark, longtime friend, close friend of the pod, talking about those draft content here. So get in the chat, like and subscribe. You know what to do. Let's go. As always, that intro is brought to you by Ezera, their new song out now, wherever you listen to music. Mark, how are you doing, my man? Long time.
Not bad. Not bad.
Time.
How you doing today?
Man, it's been a long day. I've been trying to get all these little videos going on. I've been trying to deep dive into the prospects, watch that tape. I know you've been watching that tape all year long, so I'm just trying to get as good as you, my man. I'm just trying to get even to where I can talk about these guys. First off, Gwen coming in here. Hi from New York City, Gwen. Thank you for joining us tonight. Man, I'm excited about draft content. You know, I'm still a little bit depressed. I feel like the Kings should have had that series, and then watching Edmonton win in overtime in Game 1, man, just thinks that the Kings could have been there or should have been there or close. But you know, now I'm turning my face to or my mind to the prospects that could be available in the first round. And getting into that juice. So that's getting me going. I know draft time is your time. How are you doing?
Good. This is it's all coming down to this, the months of work and preparation, and 3 weeks away. It's going to be a blast.
Are you going to make it out to LA or what?
No, I'm not going this year. I'll probably go to the next year's draft. Next year is the big one. That is the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, and that is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Actually, next year's draft is going to be really, really deep. It is going to be an amazing draft overall.
Well, we don't want to talk about next year's draft. We want to talk about this year's draft.
Yes.
And what are the overall strengths and weaknesses of this draft? I mean, I know it doesn't have a heavy hitter that people have been talking about.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a lot of prospects vying and wrestling for that first round draft capital. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the first round?
Well, this is not a deep draft, we'll say. But the top end is pretty stacked, I'd say. I mean, you don't have that, like, you know, they throw a generational player like the last couple of drafts, but the top two players in the draft are really, really good prospects, and any team would be excited to have them on their team and land them. So yeah, that's not a deep draft, but some good top end talent.
So in the top 10, what are we talking about? Are we talking about, is it a defenseman dominated? Is it forward dominated? Is it skill, or is it just solid players?
It's probably forward dominated for the most part, but you know, there's one defenseman, Matthew Schaefer. He's the top of the class right now, and he's kind of got the number one ranking overall from most pundits. And then you got there's two players at the top of the tier, I guess you could say, the top tier, and that's the second player is Michael Misa. He's a forward out of Saginaw, which I've watched him for 3 years straight now. So I got a lot of knowledge on him. But yeah, after that, there's a couple of tiers that drop below. But for the most part, it's like I said, the top end players are pretty decent.
Well, let's break it down and let's get into that. I mean, you look at the Islanders and Utah, the Mammoth have won the lottery, got to jump up. And you don't often see two teams win the lottery. So what does that mean for a playoff team, right? Islanders get the first overall pick. Is you said Schaefer, right? Number one overall. Well, in your opinion, does he NHL ready right now, or is the Islanders having to wait for a year for him to develop?
Yeah, they'll probably have to wait a little bit for him. He had a pretty substantial injury at the World Juniors, broke his collarbone, flew into the net really, really hard, had surgery on it. From what I've heard, he's not going to be able to participate in some of the, I think all of the combine events. So he's still kind of healing from that. And that was back in January. So yeah, you know what? He presents as a top player. I mean, but the Islanders could go with like a player like Michael Misa, who is probably the most NHL ready prospect of this draft pool. And he's someone that could step in next year. So, I mean, if they want a high flying, offensive threat, then Michael Misa might be the one. If they want an elite type defenseman in Matthew Schaefer, but they're gonna have to wait a little bit for his development.
So let's talk about the Islanders a little bit. They have Noah Dobson, who's an RFA, which hopefully they re-sign.
Yeah.
Then you get Schaefer, who can move the puck on offensively from a defensive standpoint. That really rockets an organization who has been starved for young talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with Dobson, he's a right shot D and Schaefer's a left shot D. So they pretty much sum up their top pairing right there. And, a lot of, NHL and playoffs is one with defense, right? So, you know what, if you have two studs like that on the point, then yeah, they might be, at the end of the day, it's going to be the scouting staff that decides, are we going to go with this elite defenseman or are we going to go with an elite forward? So you know what? The NHL draft is always kind of tricky in terms of who goes where. So you never know what's going to happen. Even though everyone says Schaefer, the Islanders could, and they could even go with someone like James Higgins, who's actually from Long Island, and he's a hometown. He's a New York Islander fan growing up. Yeah. And the skill set's there for Higgins, but he didn't have like a huge season, in terms of scoring, but he still has like really high hockey pedigree.
With him being in the NCAA, that might make sense as well. Like he can play another full season, maybe win the Hobey Baker, and then join the Islanders for the run at the end of the season.
You know what? I've been saying that. I bet you next year James Higgins is going to have a really, really good season. I'm calling it right now. He is going to, mature. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. And this kid is going to be a force next year in the NCAA. I'm calling it right now. And like you said, wins a Hobey Baker, and that just kind of puts a cap on his season, and maybe join the Isles, like you said, in a playoff run.
Well, they got Tija Ginla last year, and now the Mammoth go up to the 4th overall pick. They're pretty much taking whoever's going to fall to them at that point. It seems like there's a top 2, maybe 3 guys at the top, and then they get whatever's left over. What does that do for a team that's finding a new identity? They played pretty well this year. They got some injuries from Sean Dursey and the like. But they got Tija Ginla, and then now they're going to get another top prospect to enter into that new identity for the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, Utah's been kind of going with, big prospects in the last few drafts. So I think that, I think it depends on how a lot of mocks have them taking a bigger player. But if James Higgins drops to that 4th overall pick, I can't see them passing up on someone with that much skill set. So it's going to be interesting to see what Utah does. Do they follow, their past and draft go with a big forward or defenseman, or do they, go with that skilled, a little bit smaller player in James Higgins? But I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to pass on someone like Higgins beyond 4.
So where is the overall need for that prospect pool for Utah?
So they got some decent, they're kind of in the mix of forwards and D. They got a pretty good mix. I think it's probably in their situation at 4th overall, best available player. And in this case, I think it'd be a forward at the 4th overall pick. There's not really a D that stands out that would make that jump to the 4th overall pick. So I think they're going to go with a forward. And, if they go with the past, they'll draft a big player. There's guys like Porter Martone, Anton Frondel, Caleb Desnoyers out of the queue. Or they go with that skilled player, like I said, James Higgins, if he's there.
I mean, either way, they're looking for a guy that can come in, make immediate impact, and join the prospect pool within, right now, and then come in and make an impact in the NHL level within a year or 2.
Absolutely. Yeah. I said they got the luxury of waiting. And like I said, they got a nice, pool of prospects basically. So I think if I was Utah, I'd probably go best available player. But you never know. Like I said, the NHL, this draft is going to be a wild one, to be honest with you. Even the 1st overall pick is not kind of solidified. So, the Islanders could throw a wrench in everything and go right off the board, and then, throw things into well, the one thing that I would say about this draft is I think that you're going to see a lot of trade, a lot of movement in this first round, which is going to be a lot of fun, actually.
So if you were to put your GM hat on there and make a case for each of the players for the 1st overall, what kind of case would you make?
Well, so like I said, Schaefer, you got that elite skater, the offensive upside, and he's actually decent defensively too. So he's like a top pairing type D in the making. Michael Misa just brings everything. He had 134 points in 65 games in the OHL. He won a Mem Cup last year. He was an exceptional player. He's been playing in the OHL for 3 years. Started off as a 15-year-old, has just progressed really well. He was better defensively this year. James Hagens, like I said, last year played really well. Not this past season, but the season before in the NTDP for the U18, had a great season there, over 100 points, and then broke the record at the U18 World Championships for most points ever. So there's a case to be made for each of them, and like I said, Hagens is a Islander island boy. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Speaking of interesting, our first sponsor here of the podcast is Sports Management Worldwide. So Royalty 50 is good for 50% off your registration price to their event, including NHL draft tickets. So if you want to go to LA and be there for the NHL draft, Sports Management Worldwide is there for you. Just type in Royalty 50, good for 50% off your registration price. And so get in there, get your draft tickets, get ready to go. Sports Management Worldwide has got you taken care of. So, man, I'd like to go to LA, and Sports Management Worldwide's got my back. So if you guys are listening, go back and get yourself some draft tickets. It's going to be an interesting draft. Like they're taking it into a little smaller area this time, right?
Yeah, it's it's basically they've kind of taken on the NFL, NBA type draft. So I heard that they might switch it back next year to 2026 draft. But yeah, like I said, I went to the one in Nashville a couple of years ago. It was a lot of fun. You get to, when you're in the arena, you run into prospects, talk to scouts, talk to GMs, and it's pretty an awesome experience. So I don't know why they've changed the structure of the draft.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but hey, I'm down. If anybody's down to go, you got Sports Management Worldwide ready for you there. So we're talking about a few other players at the top of the draft who could leak in and maybe make some noise, just like Seneca last year.
Yeah, I mean, Anton Frondell is probably one. He's a Swede, played in men's league, the Allsvenskan, the second division in Sweden there. And, he had a really, really good season. Actually, the best under 18 points-wise ever in the Allsvenskan, which is phenomenal, ahead of like Nylander and Pasternak. So he's got some good company for sure. And he's a big kid. He's like 6'2", 200 pounds. But he didn't do so well in the U18. So his stocks kind of dropped. And I think that's just the public's, rankings. NHL teams will probably have a better understanding. They've been watching him all season long. And then you got Caleb Desnoyers, who played in Moncton in the Quebec Major Junior League there. And he had a really good season as well. He did really well in the playoffs. Come to find out, he had 2 wrist injuries. He was playing the whole time with wrist injuries, and he led his team in points in the playoffs, 30 points in 19 games, and did really well in the Mem Cup too. And then beyond that, I think, who do we got here? Frondell. Oh, Porter Martone from Brampton, the OHL. He's another one, had 98 points this season. So, he's more like a pesky kind of big player, Corey Perry type player, can score, has got really good passing, playmaking abilities. So I think, I don't know. It depends on what a team's looking for. Are they going to fill the need, or are they going to are they going to go with a best available player?
Well, if anybody who listens to Hockey Royalty knows, I'm best available player all the time. Like, it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years for these prospects to come up. You don't know what your team's going to look like. Just take the best talent at your pick. And it seems like the Kings did that last year with Liam Greentree, fell to them to 25. You had that as your pick. So, again, kudos to you. What have you seen from Liam Greentree over the last year?
Well, watched him a lot this year again, and his evolution has progressed. LA landed a beauty in Liam Greentree. Like I said, I love him as a player. He's so cerebral. And, the knock on him was his skating. It got better this year, which is exactly what you want to see. Had over 100 points in Windsor on a younger team, a team that wasn't really meant to do anything, and they almost knocked off Kitchener in the first round, which they should have. They were up 3 games, and then Kitchener swept them 4 in a row, but they had a lot of injuries. And Liam Greentree, big fan of Liam Greentree. You landed a beauty there for sure.
Well, I mean, the draft is all good and well in the top, but the Kings aren't picking in the top. We're picking in the back half of the draft. So we're going to deep dive here into some prospects. I know that you could talk about these guys all day long, so let's get into them real quick. Let's pull up the player cards here for everybody who's watching online. First player right here, Jakob. How do you go? Don't make me look bad.
No, yeah. So Jakob Wozniak.
Wozniak.
Yep.
So he played for Luia, right?
Yep. Luia. Yep.
Yeah, and so the SHL, and then in the national team. So a point per game player in the J20s, and then in the SHL, 2 points in 13 games as a draft eligible player. He's a right shot winger, 6'3", 185. What can player or people expect from his game?
So yeah, he's a really responsible player, I guess you could say. 200-foot player, big kid, still has some growing into his body, I guess you could say. Did really well at the U18s, as you see there, 7 points in 7 games. I think that this is a kid. He's a project. He's going to be someone that you're gonna have to wait a little bit of time. But him going back, he'll probably play in the top Swedish league next year, and that's when you're going to see the development. But he's already got the size, right? 6'3", 185 pounds. So you see he's kind of slight still, but definitely in terms of like hockey, this kid's going to be an NHLer at some point. Just going to need a little time and development.
So when I watched this tape, I saw him. There was inconsistency in his game.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of getting to the soft areas, which is nice. You know, like the inconsistency is where he's shooting from the perimeter. You saw when he was playing at his best, he was getting to the soft areas. He was getting to the net. He was getting to the slot and making those shots. He's got a very quick wrister. What do you make of his skill set offensively?
Offensively, yeah, he's a decent offensively. I wouldn't consider him like an offensive threat per se. He just does the little things right. And, you know, I consider him like a middle six type player. To be honest with you, I wouldn't consider him a top line forward, but you get a big kid and you get a kid that he's evolving. He's learning the game, especially when he played in the men's league there. You could see that there was some, you know, weaknesses that he need to improve upon. But overall, like, I think that he could be a decent player, especially depending on how much he falls.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a clean catch and release. He's got he's a dangerous one-timer from the half wall there. It's inconsistency on his side. And I mean, if you look at the stats going back to the J20s, he had a higher point per game average than Frundell, which is supposed to be a top 5 pick. He just hasn't been able to carry that over to the draft year. And I think that he has moments of one-on-one skill, dangerous power play, a shot, but it's just not there all the time where you feel comfortable taking him high in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, there's some parts of his game that just needs to be refined. His off-puck play is another thing that needs to be a little bit worked on. But, you know, when you can't teach size, I guess you could say, right? And the NHL, they love big players. And, you know, there's players in and around 24 that are smaller. They are probably higher skilled, but they probably will drop because of their size.
Well, I mean, I don't know with the new GM in Holland what he'll view as prize or skill set, but we know the old Kings regime would salivate at the size that Jakob has here. Let's go to the next player here on our list is Blake Fiddler, WHL Edmonton Oil Kings defenseman, right shot, 6'4", 209, big boy. Looks from the picture there, if everybody was watching, that lettuce is on point. Last year's in 64 games, 33 points. So he's a guy that can put up the points there, but is a big boy who can play some defense. Yeah,
so he's the son of Vernon Fiddler, ex-NHLer, and he actually is he's a really good skater for his size, and he's got a wicked shot. Like, his snapshot is one of the best. And I think that there's some untapped potential here for offense. He's just got to learn how to kind of be a little bit more assertive with the puck on his stick. But I mean, in terms of like skating and the defensive play, this is a really good player. And the other thing is that he's a right shot D. The NHL, they love right shot D. And so when you have a mobile right shot D, this is going to have some looks by NHL GMs for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we traded all of our right shot DOA outside of Brent Clark and Jordan Spence. So we definitely need to fill up the prospect pool there. I think he's smart in his defensive zone. I don't think he gets as much credit. He's good with his gaps and has a good stick on defense. Has a good shot, like you said, on offense. Where do you think he can kind of progress in his offensive play?
Yeah, I think, like I said, for the most part, it's about knowing when to engage, when to attack, and he's sometimes he's a little hesitant when in those departments. But like you said, the defensive play, he's big, he's mobile, so he's got really good gap control, and he's not afraid to use the body too, which is nice to see in a young player. And I thought that, in the dub, he got a lot better as this year progressed. Actually, near the end of the year, he was actually on fire, scored a bunch of goals in the last few games, and you just saw that I guess confidence start to grow. And I think that next year you're going to see a new Blake Fiddler when he straps him on.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like a sexy prospect or a guy that has a lot of flash, but he just does a lot of things well and nothing excellent. And if he can just be a solid defenseman offensively and defensively in the NHL level and be a top 4 guy, maybe not a top, not a number 1 defenseman, but can eat up some minutes, do a little bit of everything for you and be responsible. I think a lot of teams would like that at the back half of the first round. Let's go into our next prospect here. Milton Gastrin, SHL Moto Hockey. He plays center and winger. He's a left shot, 6'1", 185. And if you're watching online, that photo, he's got the Michael Jordan tongue going right there, salivating at getting some points. In the J20s, put up 42 points in 40 games. Got a little bit of a cup of coffee at the SHL level, but he's going to be making a stamp next year at the pro level. What do you view from Milton, and what does he bring to the NHL ice?
He's got motor. He's got really good compete. This kid he's hunting pucks down, and you love to see that in a player. 6'1", 185, still got a little bulk up a little bit more, but for the most part, this is a kid, and he's got a little bit of offensive touch. Had 42 points in 40 games there, as you see in the J20, which was not bad. I think that, he's kind of like a safe pick. He's not that, doesn't have that high ceiling, the offensive ceiling that some of the other players do, especially in and around this range, the smaller players. But what you get is a player who's responsible in all 3 zones, and he's got good compete and good motor.
Yeah, watching his tape a little bit, today I really liked his motor. I really liked his offensive game and the fact that he sets up a lot of people. You see 24 assists, and he also has a little bit of a scoring touch and 18 goals. And, I'm more of the ilk that a goal and assist are worth the same amount of points. So if you can generate some offensive ability and get into the dirty areas and do the stuff along the wall and set up your players, you're doing well. And if you have the offensive ability to snipe, you can do as well. And he's a little bit 50-50 there.
Yeah.
What do you think he needs to do to take his game to the next level? Maybe up his draft stock like Liam Greentree last year.
Well, I don't think he has, like I said, I don't think he has that offensive upside as Liam Greentree does, but he's definitely someone that will provide. Again, he's another, I'd say he's like a middle 6, bottom 6 type player. I don't see him, running a top line or being on a top line, but you can't go wrong, especially like in this draft, not a deep draft, like I said. So, the cutoff is in the 20s is where it drops a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I don't, like I said, you can't compare him to Liam Greentree, but he's definitely, a player that would bring some nice spice to your team, I guess you could say.
Well, we're going to be talking about fallers out of the draft in part 2. That's right. Mark and I are going to be coming back next week for part 2, where we deep dive into the prospects that may fall and deep dive in further in the back half of the draft. But we're not done yet. We're going to talk about some more prospects here. And one of my favorite is Sasha Bamba out of Boston here, 13 points in 40 games. Man, this is a smooth skater.
Oh, yeah. And if you look at his U18 points there, 14 and 7, but he did beat up on some of the weaker teams. That's why his numbers are a little bumped there. But, he's another player that is a really, really good skater. Now, he kind of has these issues sometimes defensively. He's trying a little too much at times, but for the most part, those are things you can hem out. And he's a young guy too. So in terms of like NCAA prospects this year who are eligible for the draft, they're 2006 born. He is one of 3 that is 2007 born. So he's a very young NCAA prospect. which means that next year you're going to see probably even better production at the NCAA level. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how Boumediene does next year, the college again.
Boumediene, I got to get that right.
Boumediene,
yeah, I got to get that right because he's my early riser. He's my early number one pick. Sasha Bosevert, right? Or
Boumediene.
No, for last year. Sasha.
Oh, Boisvert
was my number one. I'm picking all these Sasha names, and I can't get them right.
Boisvert. What? Yeah. Hey, he was rookie of the NCHC. That kid did really, really good. That was a great pickup. That Sasha Boisvert is a beauty of a pick.
I know. I wish the Kings would have got him, but I'm super happy with Liam Greentree.
Oh yeah,
Sasha. I really like his game. I think he skates really well, 6'2", 187. So he's got some size. He can grow into his frame. I think he makes a good first pass. So when you look at a lot of defensemen, and if Joe and Russ and I always harp on defenseman skill, you don't have to be the best offensive guy. You don't have to be the guy that can make a slap shot or Quinn Hughes. But if you can make a good first pass, an outlet pass, and that's what Sasha does a lot. Like you see him in his game. Sometimes, like you said, he tries too much. He tries to deke, guys or do whatever with his skating. But he's very good with that crisp first pass when he keeps it simple. And I really like that about his game. And I think he could take that to where his zone exits at the NCAA level. If somebody were keeping those stats and I could look them up, I'm sure they would be top of the league.
Yeah, you know what? He's. I always say that defensemen in hockey are like the quarterbacks in football. They have to be able to get out of the zone, and you got to be able to see the outlets and anticipate what's going to happen. And he is really good at that, actually. But there are times when, like you said, he tries to skate it out, or you might make a too hard of a pass. I guess you could say too difficult of a pass. But those are things that like I said, he's a very young NCAA player. So next year you're going to see probably a different Sasha Boumediene. He'll be probably a lot better next year for sure.
It's so funny because we talk about Brent Clark a lot because he's my boy, and he's always about making the difficult play and playing, not apologizing for his offensive skill. And I'm not saying Sasha's even in the realm of the prospect that Brent Clark was when he came out, but it reminds me of like, hey, let's let the peacock fly. Let's let him make those kind of plays and learn from his mistakes because now's the time to do that for him to be there. But the Kings need a left shot D in their prospect pool. They need it in their NHL lineup right now. So I'm not saying that Sasha's ready to go and it could step in right away, but he would be a nice pickup. Let him play a full season in Boston. Maybe if he's ready, play in the AHL at the end of next season. Or at AHL, sorry, in the end of next season. But I really like him. He's my early onset pick for the Kings in the first round. Again, just started scouting. I'm not to the level of you, Mark, but overall, the first guy that I've really enjoyed watching.
Yeah, you know what? To be honest with you, I don't know if he's going to make it to 24. He might get scooped up a little bit earlier. The NHL, they scoop up D really fast. But if he slides back, this might be a nice pick by LA for sure.
Last one tonight, we're going with Shane Vansegi, NCAA right shot, 6'2", 216. As you see there for the NCAA Michigan State, 16 points in 37 games. But with the USA national team, 23 points in 59 games. Man, it looks like a wicked shot there based on the photo. What are you seeing from Shane?
Well, this is a physical player. This is a guy that when you're on the ice, you're going to keep your head up if he's on the other side because he likes to take the body. He's very, very, very competitive. And yeah, he's got a great motor. Like I said, when you talk about compete, Vansegi's that guy. And he's a big kid and he skates decent for someone who's 6'2", 216. I think that he's just got to work a little bit on his acceleration, explosiveness. But for the most part, once he gets motoring, trouble. And like you said, that shot, the kid's got a great shot. And I had the pleasure of watching him last year at the NTDP, and I went to see him play in Michigan this year. And yeah, you know what? He had a great game when I watched him, scored a nice goal. And he's another one he should be floating around in that mid-20 range too. So, this might be a player that might make it to the Kings at 24.
Yeah, I think of his game and I look at it and it's like, okay, well, he has the skill set to play in the bottom six, with that physicality and that a little bit of a motor, but he has that shot that can elevate him up to maybe the middle six there. I mean, there's a lot of good prospects there that I'm kind of mulling over and getting going. I'm getting my board ready. And I know that you already have your board ready. So tell people where they can find your content.
Yeah, I'm on NHL Draft Pros on YouTube, Twitter. I do all scouting reports, mock drafts, rankings, all that fun stuff. And I also work for McKean's Hockey, which is an online magazine, I guess you could say. A website. We have I do all kinds of reports for them too. I cover the U.S. region. But before we end, I want to throw one more player that was on the list there, and that's Jack Nesbit, who plays actually for the Windsor Spitfires and plays on a line with Liam Greentree. And he's big. He's like 6'4" and 200 pounds or something like that. So that would be a kid that might actually be a nice, there he is, 6'4", 183 pounds, Jack Nesbit, 64 points in 65 games. Yeah. And like I said, load up the Spitfire teammates, and him and Greentree have had some magic together this year. So this might be a pick. He might be another one that might not make it to 24, but if he does, the Kings are going to have to think about this. They'll have to talk to Liam, say, hey, are we taking Jack at this pick?
Mark, you're diving into the names that we're talking about next week, man. You're too excited right now.
Sorry.
trying to dip in. I like it.
We'll talk about. I'll break down his game a little bit more next week. Then we'll get into more specifics about his game.
No, let's do it right now. We brought it up. I mean, you look at the picture here.
We'll
you look at the picture right now. He's got that mouth guard in. He's got the Kachuk bite down on that mouth guard.
Well,
he's pretty. He's got a little mean streak to his game. I like the way he plays in the corners. And then you look at the point per game average pretty much for the Spitfires. Is that elevated by Greentree? Is that a little bit of both? And he's got a little sauce and swag with that chain around his neck there. So, I like what I see from Jack.
Yeah, you know what? It might be a little bump from Greentree, but I mean, for the most part, he wouldn't be on the same line as Greentree if he didn't have the ability to stay with him. So, and if you look at his U18s there, he had 5 points in 6 games. I thought that he played really well there too. And then, like you said, you bring up Kachuk. He's kind of similar to Kachuk, maybe not as, rough as Kachuk, but he similar style game. And I mean, this is a kid that's 6'4", 183. So once he fills in a little bit and he gets a little bit more stronger, that man strength, this could be a problem area. And the Kings tend to like to draft bigger players. If you look at Liam Greentree and Byfield and whatnot, they like those big forwards. So this kid might be one to discuss.
Nesbit might be Kopitar's heir apparent when he's about to enter the sunset. I really like Jack. He's one of my top players there so far as I'm building up my board. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Kachucks. I like that kind of style. I think the Kings need a player now in that roster. And obviously Jack is a few years away, but in the prospect pool needs it as well. You need a guy with a little bit of mean streak that's not afraid to mix it up. He'll drop the gloves and fight people. He's willing to score. He's willing to bite down on that mouth guard and do what's necessary for his roster. I think he's probably more in the top 15 for me because I think he brings a lot of that stuff that other players don't bring, and he can also score. And I hope he falls to 24 just because of the player that he is. I really like him. Man, you were taking my number one for next week, man. It's all right. We're getting into it. Well, Mark, man, it's always a pleasure talking prospects with you. And you had it right on the dot next week. So I bet last year. So next week you better have the Kings pick at 24 so people
I got a couple of players. Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully if we go 2 for 2, that'd be unreal.
There we go. Well, tell players where they can find you or people where they can find you.
NHL Draft Pros. That's it.
There we go. Get all your prospect knowledge at NHL Draft Pros. Please follow us here at hockeyroyalty.com. And our last sponsor of the day is with DraftKings, the fastest game on ice. It hits another gear. Welcome to the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Stanley Cup Championship, where legends are made and every shift could turn in the tide. And now DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. You can take every slap shot, breakaway, overtime thriller to the next level. New to betting on the Stanley Cup playoffs, you're in for an exciting time. Getting a start is a breeze. Fire up DraftKings Sportsbook app, pick your team to win, lock in the wager, and you're off to the races. It's that fast and simple. Here's the kicker. New customers can just bet $5 and score $300 in bonus bets for their wagers. That's right. Turn $5 into $300 in the playoff payout. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. That's promo code THPN to unlock $300 in bonus bets when your $5 bet wins only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for people with problem gambling. Call 888-78-97777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets must win to receive the reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio. Well, Mark, it has been a pleasure, my man. I'm excited to kind of get a little cheat code watching your videos for our prospects we're talking about next week. We have a bunch of guys breaking down. I think we're breaking down 10 guys next week. So everybody who's listening now, we just dipped our toe in the water. We're ready for the back half of the draft next week. Appreciate you, Mark, and talk to you soon, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Cheers.
All right. Bye.